years ago, I told my parents, Mom, Dad, I want to be a cartoonist. To which they replied, wow, gee, honey, you're a programmer. You really think you're that funny? But I did. I wanted to be a cartoonist, and I believed that my passion was enough to achieve all my dreams. All we need is passion, right? Well, as it turns out, that if you want to be a cartoonist, you have to have a lot of funny ideas as well. So I was stuck on ideas, and I went to my parents for some advice, and my dad said, look, you know how they tell writers, write what you know? I said, yeah. He said, well, why don't you do the same thing? Draw what you know. You're a programmer. Why don't you draw about programming? And at the time, I thought that that was a brilliant idea, so I started to draw about all the funny little things that went on during my day job as a programmer. But after a couple of months, I started to get bored. You see, I no longer saw the computer problems that I was facing with on a daily basis as being funny. So I moved away from that genre, and I said, okay, what else do I have a lot of funny ideas on? What else can I draw about? And that's when I looked in the mirror, and I realized, oh my God, I'm a girl! Apparently, after all these years, I just figured that out. But there were so many things related to being a woman that I can make fun of. Things like what? Well, how about how our perception of weight has changed over the years? How about how technology has affected our relationships? Or how about self-esteem in women? Actually, the lack of self-esteem in women. You name it, I drew it. And I continued to draw these types of comics up until February of 2011, with the uprise of the Arab Spring. Now, during the week that I posted this comic, I received over 150,000 page views, and I guess it's safe to say that this was the first comic that went viral. And this was also the very first comic that was considered controversial by some, but it also addressed a huge event that was taking place in the Arab world. Now, don't worry, I'm not here to talk about the political message behind the comic itself or whether or not it was successful, but I am here to talk about is what this comic did to me. This comic opened up my mind, and it directed my thoughts towards problems that were going on around the world, whether they were political, whether they were social, that I hadn't previously thought of. Now, I'm not saying that I turned into some sort of activist or anything like that. I was just merely voicing my opinion. I had never done that before. It was as if my comics started to force me to reflect on all the things that were going on around the world, and it gave me a wonderful medium through which I can express my opinions on. And then I thought, well, hang on a minute, and I looked around me, and I realized that being Lebanese, we had become so adapted to all the problems that we were surrounded with that we no longer even saw them as being problems anymore. Things like power cuts, things like our new generation of mothers. My mom's watching. I promise I won't be like this. Don't worry. I won't turn into her. Things like, sorry to make you sad, but things like racism on our Lebanese beaches. How about a lovely little maze for you Lebanese to solve to help poor Sammy find his way to work, avoiding the burning tires and the strikes and the scary gunmen. By the way, don't bother trying to solve it, because poor Sammy will never make it to work. He'll lose his job, and his wife will go sleep with his best friend. And don't bother. And the most controversial law that was ever passed in the history of Lebanon, the no smoking law. And our lovely corrupt politicians. But it was through these comics that I was able to pinpoint how our daily lives as Lebanese were just absolutely ridiculous. Were, dare I say, comical, cartoonish. But the more I drew these types of comics, the more people were able to relate to them and see that it's okay to make fun of yourself. And I think that that's the most important thing that my comic has taught me, really, that no matter what tough situation you're in, no matter what problems you're facing, it's okay to make fun of yourself. And it's okay to find the lighter side to life. Whether you're making fun of your job or your gender or the fact that you're Lebanese, it's okay to make fun of yourself. Now, I know that my comic might not be saving the world according to TEDx standards. This is, by the way, our lovely curator, Patricia. Take a bow. But every Monday, when I post my new comic and I see people's reactions, I'd like to think that I was able to ease their problems, even if it's for a little while. Thank you.